Welcome to the Bhagavad Gita. We're going to continue with the third chapter. So it's the third chapter. I actually have written down on the third chapter 39, but actually we're on text number 40. And I just remembered why I should have brought my bag up, so because I have my glasses in there. Not to worry.
You need glasses, is it?
Yeah.
I have one glass in my cast, one left. I'll just.
No, I'd struggle through. I'm usually okay. I can manage. So we're on, I was on 30 there, not 40. Oh yeah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Amagnatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stavatam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Datati Svabhadantikam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Vastai Bhutale Srimani Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachaline Nirvashesha Sandhyavani Puschatade Shitarine. So I won't read the Sanskrit. I'll just read English. The senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. Therefore, through them lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. And purport. The enemy has captured different strategic positions in the body of the conditioned soul. And therefore Lord Krishna is giving hints of those places, so that one who wants to conquer the enemy may know where he can be found. Mind is the center of all the activities of the senses, and thus when we hear about sense objects, the mind generally becomes a reservoir of all ideas of sense gratification. And as a result, the mind and the senses become the repositories of lust. Next, the intelligence department becomes the capital of such lustful propensities. Intelligence is the immediate next-door neighbor of the spirit soul. Lusty intelligence influences the spirit soul to acquire that false ego and identify itself with matter, and thus with the mind and senses. The spirit soul becomes addicted to enjoying the material senses and mistakes this as true happiness. This false identification of the spirit soul is very nicely explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.84.13. Yashatma bhuti kunape tridatuke swadi kalatradishu boma ijadi yatirta bhuti kalilena karhichit janeshva vigyasu saeva gochara. A human being who identifies this body made of three elements with itself, who considers the byproducts of the body to be his kinsmen, who considers the land of birth worshipable, and who goes to the place of pilgrimage simply to take a bath rather than meet some men of transcendental knowledge there, is to be considered as an ass or a cow. Therefore, Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses, and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. The Lord advised Arjuna to regulate the senses from the very beginning, so that he could curb the greatest sinful enemy, lust, which destroys the urge for self-realization and specific knowledge of the self. Gyan refers to knowledge of self as distinguished from the non-self, or in other words, knowledge that the spirit soul is not the body. Vigyan refers to specific knowledge of the spirit's soul constitutional position and his relationship to the Supreme Soul. It is explained thus in the Bhagavatam, Jnanam paramaguhyam me, yad vijnana samunvitam. The knowledge of the self and the Supreme Self is very confidential and mysterious. But such knowledge and specific relation can be understood if explained with their various aspects by the Lord himself. Bhagavad Gita gives us that general and specific knowledge of the self. The living entities are parts and parcels of the Lord, and therefore they are simply meant to serve the Lord. This consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. So from the very beginning of life, one has to learn this Krishna consciousness, and thereby one may become fully Krishna conscious and act accordingly. Lust is only the perverted reflection of the love of God, which is natural for every living entity. But if one is educated in Krishna consciousness from the very beginning, that natural love of God cannot deteriorate into lust. When love of God deteriorates into lust, it is very difficult to return to the normal condition. Nonetheless, Krishna consciousness is so powerful that even a late beginner can become a lover of God by following the regulative principles of devotional service. So from any stage of life, or from the time of understanding its urgency, one can begin regulating the senses in Krishna consciousness, devotional service of the Lord, and turn the lust into love of Godhead, the highest perfectional stage of human life. Hare Krishna. So any comments, any questions to start with on that difficult topic? No? Okay. Everybody understands that one. We've a couple of you can ask any questions if you want online as well. Okay, I have one question. What is Krishna? What is the definition of Krishna consciousness there? What does it say? What Krishna consciousness is? It's easy because I was thinking of the question. It was in the second last part.
Krishna consciousness, I would say it's abandon all your material desires and focus on Krishna. Look for a way to get out of this cycle of birth and death, to go back to Supreme Soul, Krishna.
Yeah, it's kind of that's correct. Yeah, it's kind of interestingly put the way Prabhupada puts it. The living entities are parts and parcels of the Lord, and therefore they are simply meant to serve the Lord.
Would you mind?
You can't. Yeah. This consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. So from the very beginning of life, one has to learn this Krishna consciousness, and therefore one may become fully Krishna conscious and act accordingly. Yeah. So the living entities, parts and parcels of the Lord, and therefore they are meant to serve the Lord. Yeah, I mean, it was a simple question. It's kind of a trick question, simple trick question. That I just found that any time I can get into that consciousness of just trying to serve Krishna, that this is my duty just to serve Krishna, then my life becomes much easier. I never have a problem. I never think of anything else. But when I'm actually not in that consciousness, or if I'm not aware of that I'm trying to serve Krishna. Because when you're serving Krishna, you're kind of just focused on Krishna. You know what your position is, and you're not trying to satisfy your own senses. It's a kind of, but yeah, as simple as that sounds, it's extraordinarily difficult to achieve. You know, it's the reason I think for that is that it's Gyan and Vigyan. We know what the philosophy is. We know that we're serving the Krishna. But for many millions of lifetimes, we have not been in that kind of consciousness. We've been trying to satisfy senses. So from birth after birth after birth after birth, we say that repetition is the mother of learning. So we're learning not to love Krishna, and we're learning to try to satisfy the senses. And so we keep on doing that, and we keep on being born again and again and again, trying to experience some other form of sense enjoyment. One of the things that was explained there was that the mind is it's constantly thinking of different ways. That's almost like its function. It's constantly throwing up different ideas whereby we can enjoy senses, because that's what it's been trained to do practically. And then when it's doing all of that, then we get bombarded by all this kind of ideas about, oh yeah, why don't you do this, why don't you do that, why don't you do that. So it's a constant kind of a radio station playing in our mind. Okay, maybe you could do this, or maybe what you could do this, and what about that? And, you know, so it's constantly playing like that. And that has been going on for a long, long time. It's absolutely tried everything in the book, and still more. And it's really because the living entity is, you know, Krishna is unlimited. The living entity is also unlimited in the same way that Krishna is, because that's the nature of spirit. But because the spirit gets, you know, trapped by this material thinking, then it thinks that it's the body, and then the mind the mind plays. You have a spiritual mind as well as a material mind. So the material mind kind of takes on the role of the spiritual mind, and keeps on suggesting ways in which one can unlimitedly appreciate or unlimitedly enjoy. So the trick obviously is to try to engage the senses in the service of Krishna. And we may not be able to do that initially ourselves, and so therefore, or all the time ourselves, we follow the instruction of the spiritual guide, the spiritual master. We take on a service in Krishna's, for Krishna, and that is the beauty of Srila Prabhupada's movement, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, is that it gives us an actual focus of activity that we're doing for Krishna, which we know pleases Krishna because it pleases the spiritual master, who's the representative of Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada set up a first-class system like that. And he also simplified it, like book distribution, prashadam distribution, knowledge distribution, kirtan, gift distribution. And then it can be expanded in so many ways as well. So that's where we come into this, and we can actually do some very good work for the spiritual master, for Krishna. One of the ways in which we can do that is, I was actually listening to a tape recently, and it kind of influenced me quite a bit. It was Srila Prabhupada was in 1977, and he was speaking to Sarup Damodar and several of his devotees. Sarup Damodar is from a place called Manipur, and it's in India, but it's not actually it's not attached to India. It's a bit of a distance away from India, the other side of Bangladesh, between China, I think, and Bangladesh, something like that. And it's a devotional state. I mean, it's actually one of Arjuna's sons went and lived there, so it's a very spiritual place as well. And so Prabhupada was talking about making that state a Krishna conscious state, but he said it doesn't have to be Manipur; it can be anywhere. So it made me understand what Srila Prabhupada's ambition was, and that is to turn as many places as possible into Krishna conscious states. Now, I've often thought about that. Like here we are in Middle Abbey Street in Dublin, and it's kind of a small little place we have here. You know, I don't know if we're making huge headway in turning the state of Ireland into a Krishna conscious state. But Srila Prabhupada wanted to do that when he was in India as well. And when in 1956, he had just moved to Vrindavan, and all he had was one little room in Vrindavan. He didn't have any money, and he used to publish his Bhagavad Gita magazine, and I think he published it about 7 or 8 times. And then he used to go to Delhi and try to sell it, you know, and he used to have to live on the proceeds of that. That was practically the only money that he had, and he could hardly afford to have food on his table. You know, he couldn't even afford to eat, practically, because he was using all his money. And yet he was talking about, you know, trying to change the whole Western world into, because that was the instruction he got from a spiritual master, into Krishna consciousness. He felt, he was determined, he felt it was possible. You know, so in the same way, we're in that state as well, but we're lucky because we have Srila Prabhupada's energy and experience and his goodwill, his good wishes. He's actually much more, you know, enthusiastic and much more desirous for us to turn this Ireland or Dublin or even Abbey Street or wherever, you know, into a Krishna conscious state. So, our activities here can be very influential, actually. I don't mind saying, I know Keith Brewer is here, but I don't mind saying, a lot of people see, you know, us giving out prasadam on the street there in GPO, and also, you know, we're going to have our outreach program next week, you know, where we're actually asking people to come, and we've got this very nice presentation by Radhe Shyam, which we're going to present to people, just to try to change a little bit their mentality. I think it's even only to get them to believe there's something greater than themselves. There's an energy behind everything that's happening. So every little step that we're taking in that direction is actually what's going to make the difference. And to get the conviction that this will happen is very it's very enlivening, actually. And we should always be thinking like that, like Prabhupada is thinking, and thinking from his perspective, and thinking that we're not the doer, you know, we're only trying to connect, in one sense, Srila Prabhupada with the other people, because he has the potency to change them into devotees, you know. There was, I was last night, I had a gallery opening. We were introducing a new artist from Holland over in our art gallery, and but just towards the end, another art gallery owner came in to me, and he was articulating what an art gallery owner does, and he was saying that it's actually it's putting the audience or the potential buyer in touch with the artist, that we're only kind of like the via medium of doing it. And I was thinking, oh my God, this person, he's telling me about Krishna consciousness here. And I thought it was quite insightful of him to see it like that. That it's really, our job is only just to connect the person with the particular artist, and because art has got a kind of a potency whereby people will take a piece of art home and they will get lots of enjoyment from it, inverted commas, you know, for a long time. So in that way, we're trying to introduce the artist to the person. And so in the same way, that's like what we're trying to do as well. You know, we're trying to connect people with Krishna consciousness. And the more that we have experience in Krishna consciousness, the more that we're trying to develop our Krishna consciousness in conjunction with the spiritual master and the instructions from Srila Prabhupada, one of the ways in which that is done, one of the most ways in which that's done actually, is through chanting Hare Krishna. It's like, it's like a treasure. The Maha Mantra is like a very, very rare treasure. The example of Sanatana Goswami is very much there. This person came and wanted to get something very valuable, and he saw that Sanatana Goswami had a touchstone in his house. He heard that he had this touchstone, so he went to Sanatana Goswami and said, "Can you give me the most valuable thing? I heard you have a touchstone." So Sanatana Goswami said, "Yes, you go over there and get that. It's over there, and it's just take it and you can have it, no problem." So he went and he took the touchstone, and this is an amazing thing. It could turn copper into gold, this touchstone. So, but on his way away, he said, "Wait a minute, he gave me this and he was keeping this in the rubbish. Maybe there's something more valuable that he has." So what he did was he went back to Sanatana Goswami, and Sanatana Goswami said, "Okay, first of all, throw away the touchstone, and then I will tell you." And then he gave him this Maha Mantra, and the Maha Mantra is the most powerful thing, because there's many ways of looking at the Maha Mantra, but one of the most important ways of looking at the Maha Mantra is that it's our only refuge, because it's non-different from Krishna. And Krishna is also appearing, Maya Jakshena Prakriti Prashuyate Sacharacharam Etuna in Anna Krishna no. Or Hrideshe Arjuna Tishtate. There's two verses which come to mind which talk about this divine energy of there's three verses come to mind about which explain about the potency of the material energy. You know, this divine energy of mind, Krishna calls it a divine energy, is very difficult to overcome. But one who surrenders unto me can easily cross beyond it. So, you know, we're talking about here the whole situation of the mind. You know, because the mind is influenced. This is what Prabhupada says in the purport. This mind is influenced. There's three different places which this lust actually dwells. In the mind, in the senses, and ultimately in the heart, in that sense. Because whatever you want, that comes from the heart. You know, the heart wants things. If we want to do something, it's our heart that's telling us to do it generally. So if we're influenced by the material energy, this energy is very powerful. That's all I'm saying. But so we can be easily overcome by the material energy. But if we can take shelter and we appreciate the power of the holy name, that it's non-different from Krishna, and we always go to take shelter in the holy name, and that is the actual standard for it is 24 hours a day chanting. That way we'll be clear of Maya. Now this all stands for both men and women, with in that sense from the opposite attraction. When Haridas Thakur was chanting, he was chanting. I don't know. Yeah, he was becoming very famous because he was chanting, and this ruler in this state in which he became kind of envious of him because he was getting so much fame. So he engaged this courtesan to go to try to distract him away from his chanting, you know, and just so that he had all his constables ready to come along and arrest him. So she went to him the first night, and she said to him, "Oh, you are such an attractive person. I really want you to be my lover. So please come with me." And he said, "Okay, well, just wait a minute. I just have to finish my rounds." So he started, kept on chanting. So she was just waiting, and eventually the morning came, and he was still chanting. So she went. He says, "Do not worry. Come back this evening, and I will surely look after you then." So she went off, and the ruler was very angry. He said, well, what happened? He said, no, just one more night, it'll only take. So she went back the next night, and she tried the same, and he was yes, 1 minute, I'm just finishing my chanting. And he didn't finish his chanting. So she went off again and came back the third night, and the third night, suddenly she started chanting as well. And then she became completely famous as a pure devotee. And it showed that the only way we can be really completely safe in that sense is constant chanting of the holy name. So that's not easy. And sometimes Prabhupada would say that people would just go off and they would try to chant non-stop. And of course, they weren't ready for that because their mind was dwelling on everything else. But in our situation, we should always be looking for opportunities to take time out to chant more, to speak of chanting, a certain amount of rounds every day. But we should always be looking for other opportunities if we can. And if we can, even take time out, weekends, holidays, groups of devotees going off together. I was very fortunate one time, my spiritual master and two other devotees, it was 4 of us all together. We took a week away where we were chanting 64 hours, 64 rounds a day. And it was quite elevating, definitely at the beginning. But you know what happened? Later on, it started to get, it wasn't, it started to get back into kind of normal again, so even with chanting that many minutes around. But in the evening time we used to get together and talk and discuss, which was very important, very nice. We used to get together and discuss a few different things about it. But it's been my habit a little bit ever since to try to, especially in times where I'm challenged. Does anybody here ever feel challenged? In Krishna consciousness, even we've got the greatest philosophy. It's a wonderful thing that we wanted, and still our mind is still kind of niggling away. Telling us this. No, you're no good. No, you can't do this. Oh, forget about that. Our mind is constantly doing these things. So, if we can develop the habit, I found it very useful to try to, to chant that bit extra 4 rounds, 2 rounds, 6 rounds. Find the time, and what that does is that helps bring your heart out of the difficulties, so that you can see things in their proper perspective again. I found that really, really useful. It saved me, I'd say, on quite a few occasions. And it's something that I intend to do more and more, because as you grow older, you find that you're not as active as you were previously. Whereas when you're active, sometimes you can keep yourself up in a certain way. You're doing activities and you're doing it for Krishna, and you're more focused. And when you get older, you're not as your mind kind of slips back a little bit into laziness. So I'm finding it probably more important now, even to take that time to do more, to chant more, and it's essential. I'm finding it essential, because it makes me realize what Prabhupada talked about, that the constant chanting. There's some beautiful verses about that. I can't remember. We have Prasanna Prabhu's online here, and I don't know if he remembers the verse. Or maybe you might know Abhi. Constant chanting of the holy name is the way of the great sages, or something like that. I can't remember what it is. It might be the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto. But constant chanting of the names of Hari, I think it might be, is the way of the great sages. But my memory is not so good on that, actually. It's something which encourages us to chant more, and So I was meditating on this when I was looking at these verses about the sitting places of the lust, because the mind, what does Prabhupada say again? Let's say.
Here it is 2, Canto 2, 1:11.
2:111, yes.
The translation is, O King, constantly chanting of the holy name of the Lord, after the ways of the great authorities, it is doubtless and fearless ways of successful rule, including those who are free from all material desires, those who are desirous of all material enjoyment, and also those who are self-satisfied by dint of transcendental knowledge.
That's really powerful, isn't it? That's really powerful. You know, because it gives us the strength, because it talks about all different types of people there, isn't it? You know, people who are on the highest platform, but then there's also people who are desirous of all material things, and it's the doubtless and fearless way. You know, I don't have to remember that always.
2:111. I'll send you my message.
Okay, sounds good. 2:111 Prasanna. I'm sure you probably had it as well anyway. But yeah. So those places, the mind, the intelligence, the senses, the mind, and the intelligence, and it's amazing the way Prabhupada put it there, that the intelligence is the immediate next door neighbor of the spirit soul. So it's the next door neighbor of the spirit soul. Lusty intelligence influences the spirit soul to acquire the false ego. This is in the text 40. Wow, lusty intelligence influences the spirit soul to acquire the false ego and identify itself with matter. Hare Krishna, thank you. And thus with the mind and senses. So there's those three different sentences there.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Sonali.
Prabhu, we are not able to hear you. Like your voice is breaking in between. There is some noise.
Oh, is there? I don't know why that is.
Is that on Zoom there?
This is on Zoom, yeah. Oh, do you know what it is, Sonali? Maybe I should move the microphone.
Closer.
Can you hear me better now? Is that any better? Ah, that's what it was. You see, I have a microphone here, and it's. I'm thinking I'm talking too loud. But okay. Okay, so that last point was that the sitting places of are the mind, the intelligence, and the senses, and that the intelligence is the next door neighbor of the soul, and a lusty intelligence influences. Let me just say it very quickly. Lusty intelligence influences the spirit soul to acquire the false ego and identify itself with matter, and thus with the mind and the senses. Now, the reason that I'm dwelling on this very much is because I wanted to emphasize how we have been doing this for such a long time, and that it's not so easy to immediately to get out of this, and it's a question of sometimes 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But the doubtless and fearless way is to constantly chant throughout and to constantly read throughout. You know, this hearing and chanting and associating with devotees and discussing the Lord's pastimes with the devotees. These are the ways in which we can actually make sure of our progress in spiritual life. So even when we go through, because this whole Krishna consciousness is a science, starting with a little faith, sadhu sangha, associating with devotees, practicing some regulations, and anarta nivritti, which is getting rid of the anartas, getting rid of the unwanted things. And this is the unwanted things, basically. That's what we're on to here. And Bhagavad Gita is like the preliminary study before we get to Bhagavatam. So if we're harassed still by the unwanted things, don't worry. This is natural. This is what's going to happen. But we should just continue on regardless, and we should take lots of prasadam, enjoy hearing, enjoy kirtan. These are ways in which we can actually make progress. And so I'm just going to again stop for a second and see does anybody have any questions or any comments on this.
Would you explain to a child what the mind is?
Oh. I don't know if a child will be able to do that, to separate the understanding of what the mind is.
Separate from what?
From the soul, from who he is. Most people think that they are the mind, and they don't think that they're the soul. They identify with the mind, and which is the mind of a body. The child and the adults think that they're a specific person at a specific time, and this is who they are. It's quite interesting. I had a look today. I was with my brother, and we were looking at pictures of our grandparents and of our parents, and I didn't say it to him because he's, we were talking in different, we were thinking on different things at the time, but like, where are they now? Where are those people that were in those bodies now? We don't know, shall we say. So same with us. Where will we be in another 50 years, another 100 years? So this is how we identify so much with these bodies. But a devotee who's trained, one whose mind is trained in knowledge, can see all this. So this is why we're concentrating on this training. And when we can control the senses via the mind, then we're in a good situation.
But the question is, what is the mind?
The mind is, it's said that you can't see the mind, but we can see the mind by the symptoms.
Thoughts?
Yeah, the thoughts would be, I think
Thoughts
that's probably
the false ego.
the difference between the mind and the intelligence is, and the soul, because we have a spiritual mind and a spiritual intelligence as well. Our spiritual body has a spiritual mind and spiritual intelligence. But the material, because we're identifying, it's like a covering. The material mind is a covering of the soul. And so the intelligence is a covering as well. And like for instance, when we leave our body, it's the mind and the intelligence and the false ego carry the soul to the next body. They carry the soul right into the next body.
False ego?
Yeah.
Is the false ego not like I'm a man, I'm Irish?
Yeah, that is the false ego. Yes, I'm a man, I'm Irish, yeah. So the false ego then it's subtly creating the next body as it goes on.
By my actions?
By your actions and by your thoughts as well, but mainly by actions. It's creating the next situation for ourselves. And then we gradually wake up to that as well. And then we appear in that next body. Can you still hear Sonali?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, good. Yeah. So so the mind is constantly thinking of ways in which to enjoy in the material world. That's what the mind is definitely doing. But we have to control that mind into doing things for your spiritual development. And our intelligence is thinking of, for instance, going to India for a spiritual retreat, or going to a nice seminar, or going to Kirtan, or and only taking prasadam. These are different ways, or thinking of ways to spread Krishna consciousness. This is how we're using the mind in its best way. And therefore, what the idea is that we spiritualize the mind, and then our spirit soul we actually start to act on the platform of the soul. And in the higher stages, we are the soul. We're the soul. We're not the body anymore. We're just acting on the spiritual platform. And so that we're on the stage of getting to the soul of who we are. Let's hear the boss, Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. Text 42. The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind. And he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. Purport. The senses are different outlets for the activities of lust. Lust is reserved within the body, but it is given vent through the senses. Therefore, the senses are superior to the body as a whole. These outlets are not in use when there is spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness. In Krishna consciousness, the soul makes direct connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the hierarchy of the bodily functions, as described here, ultimately ends in the Supreme Soul. Bodily action means the functions of the senses, and stopping the senses means stopping all bodily actions. But since the mind is active, then even though the body may be silent and at rest, the mind will act as it does during dreaming, But above the mind is the determination of the intelligence, and above the intelligence is the soul proper. If therefore the soul is directly engaged with the Supreme, naturally all other subordinates, namely the intelligence, mind and senses, will be automatically engaged. In the Katha Upanishad, there is a similar passage in which it is said that the objects of sense gratification are superior to the senses, and the mind is superior to the sense objects. It is therefore the mind, if therefore the mind is directly engaged in the service of the Lord constantly, then there is no chance that the senses will become engaged in other ways. This mental attitude has already been explained. Param drishtva nivartate. That means experiencing a higher taste. If the mind is engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord, there is no chance of its being engaged in the lower propensities. In the Katha Upanishad, the soul has been described as Mahan, the great. Therefore the soul is above all, namely the sense objects, the senses, the mind and the intelligence. Therefore, directly understanding the constitutional position of the soul is the solution of the whole problem. With intelligence, one has to seek out the constitutional position of the soul and then engage the mind always in Krishna consciousness. That solves the whole problem. A neophyte spiritualist is generally advised to keep aloof from the objects of the senses. But aside from that, one has to strengthen the mind by the use of intelligence. If by intelligence one engages one's mind in Krishna consciousness, by complete surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then automatically the mind becomes stronger. And even though the senses are very strong, like serpents, they will be no more affected than serpents with broken fangs. But even though the soul is the master of intelligence and mind, and the senses also, still, unless it is strengthened by association with Krishna in Krishna consciousness, there's every chance of falling down due to the agitated mind. Woo! Is that good, wasn't it? Isn't that amazing? You know?
I feel that is directed directly to me.
yeah.
I think everyone feels that way.
That's true. I absolutely feel that. Yeah. That's just amazing. I had a kind of an interesting realization on that, and I was talking Tutsi Priya Guru actually. It was about, we were talking about the mind and how we're dependent on Krishna's mercy. It's that, I think Prabhupada indirectly said that there, when he said that unless it's strengthened by association with Krishna and Krishna consciousness, there's every chance of falling down due to the agitated mind. In other words, it's very hard for us to do these things ourselves. But if we get the mercy of Krishna, or Krishna's representative, then we can have that strength. And that's the position of humility. That we are not, in one sense, Prabhupada is there, he's telling us what to do, and we're doing it, yeah, we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this. But then at the end he says, unless we get our mind strength by association with Krishna, in Krishna consciousness, there's every chance of falling down. So it's still the same way. We're dependent on Krishna. Daiviyesha gunamani mama maya dhyatra. This divine energy of mine is very difficult to overcome, but one who surrenders unto me can easily cross me on. So if we give up everything, we just throw our arms up, say, it's only you, Krishna. I can't do this. I depend on you. I have to. It's only you can do this for me. Then Krishna will hear that cry. But he's waiting. He's waiting to hear that actual cry. He's not. It's not. Okay, Krishna, that's fine. Thanks a lot for that. Now I'll get back into doing this myself. I can sort it out. No, you don't need to worry. I can do it. So it's when Krishna hears that cry, then he says, oh, okay, because Krishna, Krishna loves us, and that's really what we have to understand. That was one of the things. Mahatma Prabhu has these cards, which this affirmation when we're chanting japa. One of them is part of it is he's trying to explain to us that Krishna actually loves us, because sometimes we might be going through a difficulty. Why are you doing this, Krishna? Well, what about this? And sometimes it's even in the highest stages of the spiritual life, when Krishna is in relationship with the gopis, sometimes he disappears. He goes away, and then the gopis are wondering, why did he go away? We gave up everything for him, and he left. He wasn't there anymore. Where is he? Why did he go away? And then Krishna goes back, and then they kind of challenge Krishna. Why did you do this? And he said, well, I did it so that I could make your love stronger, so that you would actually want me even more. And then there was a discussion. I actually missed this class, but I heard it afterwards. It was in Vrindavan in 2023, and it was Bhakti Vigamaraj was giving the class, and Badri Narayan Prabhu, he's a wonderful Bhakti Narayan Maharaj. He's a wonderful devotee, and he's always picking at different ways in which to view things. He takes the common man's angle and he kind of challenges sometimes. So he said, yeah, but what happens if Krishna's not there and devotees he doesn't see Krishna, and so then he just says, I'm giving up, I can't, because this is too hard, I can't do this. And so what happens then? And Bhakti Vigan Maharaj said to him, well, he obviously wasn't sincere enough, which is a hard kind of an answer. But then he qualified it, and he said that no, that person can take up again for where they left off. But this is to show us that we're still pride. We still have pride, because if we don't wait for Krishna to come to us, it means that I don't need Krishna. I can do this myself. Krishna's not there. It's kind of like a doubt of Krishna, that Krishna's going to help us, But a person who comes to the end of their tether and realizes that, oh my God, then Krishna gives us this humility to realize, the humility just comes, and we realize that and Krishna says, and Bhakti use this thing, is that it's because Krishna wants to show us that we still have pride. We're still full of pride. And that pride is, you see, what pride really means is that it's us and not Krishna. We can sort things out. But instead of that, Krishna wants love, because love is the real currency that's going on there. So Krishna does these things so that we can see our pride and we can change that pride into humility, and we realize we're helpless. And that humility absolutely cleanses the heart. It's just like a torrent or an ocean. This is what humility does. It actually cleans the heart like that from that pride. You know, it's quite a very powerful energy. And but sometimes we have to be squeezed that much for it to get that, you know, and that's the promise. That's what the spiritual life is about. You know, that's why the prophet says a spiritual life and Krishna, it's not easy going. Basically, a spiritual life and an easygoing life doesn't go together. You know, if you want an easygoing life, if this is not what spiritual life is about. Spiritual life means really working on these things, but the benefits are, you know, eternal benefits. You realize your actual spiritual position, and you actually go back to the spiritual world where you were actually from. So anyway, I hope I didn't. Is there any questions? Or?
I was thinking, it's sometimes I feel that the extremes are
Extremes,
bad.
yeah.
Krishna Prabhu.
Yes? Oh,
Krishna, Hari Bol Prabhuji. This is Jyoti.
Yes.
I don't have any questions, but I just want to add, I'm very curious. This is so true when you surrender yourself to Krishna, you know, and you can sometimes there are times you are into your highs and you feel like, you know, so you're fully devoted, fully onto Krishna. But then when you come to the lower level fighting with the material world, and you see that fight happening between your soul and your mind, and you're trying to fit in with the world, you know, even with your close by relationships, your routine life, it becomes very, very hard to, even though you know what your soul wants, even though you know Krishna is there to hold your hand, the fight is every day, you know, every second, and sometimes you do fall down every day, you know, but I really feel the association of, you know, other associates that really helps to go on and move on with your spiritual life. And bhakti, being in bhakti is, people say bhakti is very easy, you know, you can just clap your hands, do prayers in the evening, do a few things, and you can do it. But as you said, bhakti is the most difficult thing to follow because it happens every second, every moment you're working on it. So I'm thankful that I have association of, you know.
Very, very good, Jyoti. Yeah, that's very, very true. How far you fall or how often you fall, but it only matters how much you bounce back, you know, because you know that's the nature that, you know, spiritual life. You actually bounce back into spiritual. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was saying that it's not. It doesn't matter that the fact that you may fall, but the most important thing is that you bounce back, you know. And so it doesn't matter how far you fall, it matters how much you bounce back. So because that's the nature of spiritual life, that we two steps forward, one steps back, you know, so not to worry about that, but just as you said, the association of devotees really keeps us in Krishna consciousness. Yeah, that what you explained there was very from the heart, and I felt that was very powerful. So no, thank you for that.
You go through it every day, you know, whatever you do, there's a fight over it. If the life would be completely different if you're living just with devotees, you know, everybody's devotee around you.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen in the real world. In
Yeah.
the real world, you meet all sort of people in your relationship, in your, you know, work life, even in your house. There's a fight every day.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, you've got the weapons to deal with that, which is quite amazing. Thank you very much, George. We've just one more question, Jyoti, here. I'm going to ask someone to. Could you ask the question into the microphone, into this? Yeah, if you could.
There?
Yeah. Oh, just to hear. Yeah. Because it was a very.
They can't hear.
They can't hear unless you talk into there.
Okay.
So come in front of it, actually. That's great.
So, hi everyone. It's not a question exactly, it's just observation there. Because sometimes we tend to go to the extremes. No, sometimes we tend to be maybe aggressive or too much humble. And I don't know about you guys, but for me it's like I tend to feel guilty if I repress my feelings. But how can we balance that? Because it's very hard for me to be like, I try to be humble and good, but sometimes I'm...
No, that's good. Okay, well that's a good question. I might have let me see. I gave one answer to that, thank you. Yeah, it is actually important not to, not to repress too much, because you see, this is the whole balance that goes on there about controlling the mind and controlling the senses. There's a famous example in the Bhagavatam that when you're actually riding a horse, that sometimes the horse wants to go ahead, and you kind of give it a little bit of lead, so it can actually go ahead and think it's in control. But then other times you pull it back, and you pull it back at different times, So sometimes you have to let your actual your character or your tendency in this world. If you repress it too much, it's just going to be harmful. So that's one aspect. That's one answer to that. So you have to learn how to know when you have to allow yourself to say things and do things, and if when you see that it's and your friends can be a big help in that as well. And sometimes when you're with your friends, you're just normal, you're relaxed, and even though you can be a little irreverent or whatever, they're not going to, or you might let out a few curse words. Sorry, that's only okay for Irish people, not Italian people, or Indian people. But with your friends you can say things, and it works as well, So that way, and of course we had the example of the tortoise as well. He takes sometimes, and this is important actually. I'm just trying to get in touch with this. I was just listening to one thing that Mahatma Prabhu said. He was talking about your surroundings. You also have to be careful. And I was talking to Jeevan about it as well. You have to kind of also have your sacred space as well. And if you're in a situation which can be not beneficial to your spiritual life, you should try to also make sure that you're living your life which allows, like if you're living over a pub or something like that, that's not great association, because there's a lot of negative energy there. But whatever that example is for anybody, you should also be looking for to get as sattvic a situation as you can, and which will help. Okay, thank you so much, Prabhus, for joining. We're a little over the time, and so we're going to start the Kirtan, and Kirtan Yagya Ki Jai, Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai, Haribol. So thank you for joining, and unfortunately we won't. You can take this up on live. It's on the YouTube plate, so you can join in the Kirtan then, or on Facebook, or it's on YouTube as well. Actually, yeah. Hare Krishna. Jai Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol. Thank you, Simon. Hare Krishna. Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol. Oh, I thought the end of it. That's it. Okay, maybe I'll start for a few minutes and then. No, I think I've got to purify myself here. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare
Hare
Could you please?
Oh yeah. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare